Hi everyone. So my presentation today is on technological resources for bilingual learners. So what is assistive technology? Basically, it's any device, product, equipment, or program that enhances learning. It's a very common term in the special education realm, and any kind of like therapy too. It's meant to really enhance the quality of life and the learning experiences of people with disabilities, but it's definitely really great for anyone who's either an emergent bilingual or, the different terms we use, ELLs. It really is helpful for them. It's helpful for teachers that are instructing them and for families as well. So, here are a couple benefits for having technological support. It engages and motivates students in the classroom. It facilitates communication between students and their teachers and their peers. It really helps create a multi-sensory learning experience, so it kind of reaches a range of students, based on students that like to learn visually, students that have better learning experiences with audio. So it really is wonderful in that way. It helps build language confidence as students kind of progress in their linguistic skills and capabilities, and it also supports students as they use their full linguistic repertoire. So again, we have this idea of translanguaging, of being able to support our students' home languages and English instruction so that they don't really have to choose. It's really more of like an authentic learning experiences, because being able to move between both languages is how translanguaging works. And it's this fluid kind of process that teachers really need to provide support for. Um, Technology helps us reach a diverse student body, because at the end of the day, it maybe we'll have a classroom where a lot of the students speak Spanish, but there are going to be other students that speak other languages that we may not be familiar with at all. So technology really helps us access materials and support for really any student who comes from any background, culture, and language repertoire. So there are a couple different obstacles that schools and families and students can face when there is this like really big need for technology in the classroom. One of them is the lack of funding for technological equipment, the cost of devices and apps. Some of these programs are really only accessible through grants and can be like hundreds of dollars. So that makes it less accessible for families and for teachers, depending on what the school, how much money the school has for that department, what kind of program they have for bilingual learners, and things like that. There's also this need for professional development in order for teachers to kind of learn how to address, basic technological issues, minimizing distractions so students are really using the technology in positive ways and it doesn't really detract from their learning. And also just learning basic technological competencies. Like for me, with this pandemic, it has been challenging learning different ways of virtual learning and different programs online, but I think it's really helpful because we are in that age of like new technology, and it's also helpful because it's enabled teachers to really reach their students even when they didn't get to see them for like a whole year. Another way that professional development would help teachers is by really teaching them how to implement these like integrated strategies, so that we're just not giving a pair of headphones to a student and expecting them to really just learn language. It's really about having students actively construct meaning through shared social interactions, collaborating with one another. And that's really where the difference is made. I used a quote here from one of my resources, and it says, "Students don't really acquire language by performing computer tasks divorced from an authentic learning environment. They need social interactions that make them actively use language to negotiate meaning." So I also wanted to include these stats. Basically, on the left, we have this research that Americans with lower incomes have lower levels of technology in the home. People with lower incomes are less likely to have devices in the house, and therefore kids that grow up in those environments really don't have the same access as like students that, grow up in middle class homes. It also makes a difference, what community the students live in. Like in rural areas, especially remote ones, it's more common for people to not have internet access or to only have dial up. And there are less parents who have, these devices again in the home. It's If you look at this, it's nces.ed.gov. That resource basically breaks it down by race, and it also tells you why, the main reasons for why parents and families, what reasons they give for not having technology in the home. The two biggest reasons were the cost, which isn't surprising, and also there's like a lack of knowledge of really how to navigate these devices and how, the programs and apps that come with them. So I also pulled this idea from the reading we did in class by Garcia. So it's this idea that families in low income homes really just have to settle. And they're settling for whatever school is nearest to them, whatever program that school has. So if the school that they send their kids to, for whatever reason, if it's closest to their home, if it's the best financial option for them, some of those schools may not have an adequate bilingual program. They might not even have technological support. And so that really makes a difference too in the instruction that the students are receiving. All right, so here are some online tools that I found to be really interesting. We have Google Translate, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with. It's used for word to word translations and vocabulary inquiry. And it's really interesting because I've used this before at work when I've had to communicate with different people who speak other languages. I speak Spanish myself, but I've had people come in. I work retail as of right now, and I've had people come in who were Chinese or spoke other languages, and Google Translate has really been helpful. They have, I believe it's close to 60 languages that you can translate really anything into. And it's also helpful for teachers when they want to send notes to parents in their home language. It makes it easier to kind of, you can also take a picture of what you want to say or what you want to write. And that helps. And that helps too. There also is this World Book Online source, and it has versions of text in Spanish and French. And what I liked is that they separate the text into like beginners and advanced levels, so it's easier to kind of find text depending on your students' needs. And this is just one resource out of a million. There were so many that I found that I really couldn't fit them in here, but that was just one that I thought was really cool. And then we have the Lingo Pen, which basically scans text and reads text out loud as you scan. So it provides spelling support, pronunciation, it has definitions and synonyms, and you can translate it pretty much into whatever language. So that's pretty cool as well. I also wanted to add that the Lingo Pen, and there's different variations of that pen and that kind of tool. It's really helpful when teachers are providing written instructions to students, like on worksheets and things, that they can use it and just scan over it and translate it into any language that they feel more comfortable with, whatever they speak at home. So here's some other uses for technology in the classroom. We have listening centers, which the basis of it is that like a student would listen to a text first in their home language, become familiar with it. They can read along as they listen and kind of do this word recognition and decode, like they can work on their decoding skills, and then eventually moving over to the English version of the text, and they would listen to it after they're already familiar with it in their home language, and then read as they go along as well. iPads make translation dictionaries really accessible. They provide audio pronunciation, and a lot of times it comes with images too, so that they can kind of connect that knowledge. PowerPoints are also very valuable too for like digital storytelling, which I thought was really cool. It really helps with their comprehension skills. You can use this multimedia, you can involve the whole class. It can be used in groups, and you can send them home so that students can kind of look over them with their parents, and you can include links, and it really has so many ways it can go. It's really awesome for students being able to express themselves, collaborate on projects together, and explore new skills like design. I think it's also great for motivating them. They can, the digital storytelling aspect of it really is awesome for creative students who want to express themselves and pursue different interests. So, some of the ways it impacts teachers and families. For teachers, it helps them differentiate lessons so that they can kind of meet students where they're at, because obviously we know that our students don't learn at the same pace and they all have individual needs and different strengths as well. So having technology really helps us reach more kids. It's also easier to assess student progress because students, ideally, when technology is used in the best way, they're getting materials that are at their level, that are within their reach, that are just a bit challenging, but are accessible to them. And when they have those like just right materials that they need, it's easier for us to kind of see where they're at and check their progress, see what else we can do. And it's a good way of us being able to assess ourselves too, and how we're navigating technology. So for families, technology is wonderful too because it pretty much allows for a better communication flow between parents and teachers. Parents can become more familiar with different devices, apps, and programs because as their children are becoming more familiar, they can teach their parents at home. They can access things um, from their computers and their devices if they have them, and teach their families how to use them. Teachers can also send things home to kind of like guide parents to teach them how to use things, to show them the strategies that teachers are implementing in the classroom so that parents can mirror that as well. And of course, the teacher has to be aware in order to make this happen, has to be aware of like the home life, like what languages the parents speak, what's their, what their linguistic abilities are, and how they can support their children at home. So I wanted to talk about my mom real quick. She's a speech pathologist in the city, and she's also bilingual. She speaks Spanish and English. When she was learning English in college, when she moved here from Puerto Rico, she didn't really have access to that much technology. It was like textbooks and the occasional, there were like tapes that she would use. But, as far as the internet goes, there wasn't too much of exploration that she could do. So she has been able to use different resources with her students and or the kids that she gives services to, which include Leapfrog. And that, that's kind of like Leapfrog has a bunch of different products, but one of them that she has is kind of like it's a Leapfrog like tablet, and they can access different games, and it can be in multiple languages. She uses her iPad and takes it with her. They can access different videos. She does songs in their home languages. And she doesn't have the lingo pen that I spoke about earlier, but she has this like Leapfrog version. And as you see here in the photo, the pen works with the specific books that this company releases, and they can use that as they read. So I thought that was really cool. I think technology has really changed the game. I mean, I feel like it used to just be for teacher productivity, like, and now it isn't meant to replace, like I say here, it really isn't meant to replace instruction. It really depends on how technology is integrated into the classroom. We don't want to just shove tablets in our students' faces and expect the magic to really occur. But when we provide them with the right supports to go along with that, it really makes a difference. I also just want to reiterate that this is important because when our students aren't receiving the support that they need, they're at risk for receiving inappropriate, special education referrals, placements. They're at risk for really just falling behind because of the lack of access to really important content that they need in order to continue on with their learning. All right, and before we end, this is just some other online tools that I found really interesting. Read and Write is another text to speech app. Elevation is actually really beneficial for teachers, and it's a good way of teachers being able to kind of track student growth and progress. Wordsmith is an online dictionary, and it's really cool because it gives students access to like anagrams. They can make crosswords. There's illustrations to go with each word. Glogster is a cool website where they can make interactive posters. So that again, like, would be really cool for collaborative projects. And Book Reader is a storytelling program, and it's really easy to navigate. So, students wouldn't be too overwhelmed, but it has a lot of options for them. And I just thought it was really cool. Okay, so I have my references listed here and here. So feel free to email me, reach out to me, send me any questions you have underneath the comments on YouTube. And thank you all so much for listening.